What's up, Bears fans? Welcome back to the channel where we talk all things Chicago Bears. Today's show is going to be a fun one because we're diving into some juicy comments made by none other than Brian Erlocker. Yeah, the Bears legend himself. He recently popped up on Johnny Manziel's podcast, and to be totally honest with you, I didn't even realize Johnny had a podcast until now. But hey, I ended up listening to most of this interview and it was actually pretty entertaining. Now, here's what makes this so interesting. If you've been following Erlocker over the years, you probably know he's been pretty critical of the Bears recently. Not exactly Mr. Sunshine when it comes to this franchise, but this time, totally different vibe. Erlocker sounds genuinely excited about where the Bears are headed. And that's saying something coming from a guy who usually doesn't sugarcoat anything. Before we dive into what he said about Caleb Williams and the coaching situation, let me throw a quick question your way. Who's your all-time favorite Chicago Bears player? I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. For me, it's Devin Hester. Not saying he's the absolute best in franchise history, that title probably belongs to Walter Payton, but Hester was just so electric to watch. I grew up watching him. He was that guy who could change the game in an instant with one return. As much as I respect legends like Payton, I didn't get to see him play live. So Hester's my guy when it comes to favorites. Drop your pick down in the comments. All right. Back to Erlocker. So he went on this podcast, I think it's called Glory Days with Johnny Manziel, of course. One of the hot topics was the Bears' new quarterback, Caleb Williams. And let's not forget, Erlocker wasn't exactly a fan of Justin Fields. In fact, he was pretty vocal about the Bears needing to move on and draft Caleb. So you could say he's been Team Caleb from the start. During the interview, Erlocker said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that he thinks Caleb is going to be really good. He even went as far as to say that if Caleb had been in a different situation last season, he could have been Rookie of the Year. That's a pretty bold statement considering how things played out. Erlocker brought up how Cliff Kingsbury worked with guys like Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and how coaching makes all the difference. And honestly, it's hard to argue with that. Look, no one's denying that Caleb Williams didn't fully meet the crazy hype during his rookie year in Chicago. But let's be real, there were still some good moments. The stats weren't terrible. He showed flashes, but the coaching staff, man, that was a different story. I'll even admit it myself, I was optimistic when they hired Shane Waldron as offensive coordinator. I thought it was a solid hire on paper. The guy came from Seattle, had experience, worked with Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, so it seemed like a step in the right direction. But wow, once you saw the offense on the field, it was a mess. Now, in hindsight, it's obvious that Waldron wasn't ready to be a strong voice in the locker room. When you have a head coach like Pete Carroll running the show in Seattle, you don't necessarily need your offensive coordinator to be a leader of men. But with Matt Eberflus in charge here in Chicago, yeah, you kind of need your offensive coordinator to step up and command the room. And that just didn't happen. We saw it unravel pretty quickly. The offense was stagnant. Players looked lost, and let's not forget that both Eberflus and Waldron got shown the door. Then they switched play-calling duties to Thomas Brown for a bit, but at that point, it was already too late to salvage much of the season. So when Erlocker says Caleb would have done better with better coaching, he's not wrong. Would he have beaten Jaden Daniels for Rookie of the Year? That's tough to say. Daniels had one of the best rookie campaigns we've seen in years. But could Caleb have outplayed someone like Bo Nix if he were under a guy like Sean Payton? In Denver, yeah, I think that's realistic. You put Caleb in Washington with Kingsbury or in Denver with Payton, and there's a very good chance we're talking about a completely different narrative. And that leads us to the big picture topic, the Bears' ongoing coaching carousel. Erlocker didn't hold back on this either. He straight up said that ever since the Bears parted ways with Lovie Smith, there's been zero consistency in the coaching department, and honestly, can anyone argue with that? It's been a revolving door of coaches, coordinators, and systems. Erlocker pointed out that it's not necessarily the players' fault, but at the end of the day, that's just how the NFL works. When coaching changes happen every couple of years, it's almost impossible for players to develop and for the team to build any real identity. But here's where it gets interesting. Erlocker is fully on board with the Ben Johnson hire. He loves it. He believes Johnson is the right guy to get the most out of Caleb Williams. And I'll tell you why that matters. Erlocker isn't the type to blindly hype up the Bears just because he used to play here. This is a guy who has openly called out bad quarterback play, bad coaching, and bad management decisions. He's not afraid to ruffle feathers. Remember how down he was on Justin Fields? Erlocker was calling out Fields' limitations as a passer, way before a lot of others were willing to admit it. At first, I was one of those people pushing back on Erlocker's criticism of Fields. I wanted to believe that with the right support, Fields could thrive, but as time went on, it became pretty clear that Erlocker saw the writing on the wall. Justin Fields has a ton of athleticism, but the passing inconsistencies and decision-making issues were too much to ignore. Erlocker was ahead of the curve on that. So now, hearing him speak positively about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson carries some weight. This isn't a guy just tossing around compliments. He genuinely believes this pairing could work, and honestly, that gives me some hope. Erlocker also touched on how first impressions matter with coaching hires. He talked about the transition from Lovie Smith to Mark Trestman and how the players knew almost immediately that it wasn't going to work. Lance Briggs even went on record saying that after the very first team meeting with Trestman, the vibe was all wrong. The players felt it, Erlocker felt it, and sure enough, that coaching era ended in disaster. And let's look at the history here. Since Lovie Smith was fired, the Bears' record has been brutal. 76 wins, 120 losses. That's bad by any standard. You compare that with other NFL teams over the same period, and it's almost certainly bottom 5. The numbers don't lie. You had Mark Trestman, who lasted 2 years, then John Fox, who stuck around for 3. Matt Nagy had one good season at 12-4, but after that, things fell apart fast. And then there's Matt Eberflus, who, let's be honest, will probably go down as one of the worst head coaches in Bears history. The interim situation with Chris Tabor didn't change much, and now here we are, hoping that Ben Johnson can finally break the cycle. So yeah, history tells us the Bears have gotten this wrong time and time again, but there's something about this hire that feels different. Maybe it's the fact that Johnson was the hot offensive mind on the market, and the Bears actually landed him. Maybe it's because they've finally committed to building around their quarterback with a coach who knows how to scheme an offense that works in today's NFL. I mean, let's be honest. If this doesn't work out, it won't be because the Bears didn't go after the right guy this time. They targeted Ben Johnson early. They waited for him, and they got their man. Some people were saying, oh, they should have gone after Mike Vrabel. But realistically, once the Patriots' job opened up, Vrabel wasn't coming to Chicago anyway. And even then, I still think going after an offensive mind like Johnson was the right call. Now, of course, none of this guarantees success. Being a great offensive coordinator doesn't automatically make you a great head coach. It's a completely different job. Managing the whole team, handling in-game decisions, motivating players, setting the culture, that's a whole new level of responsibility. But still, hearing a guy like Erlocker give his stamp of approval definitely makes me feel a little better about where this team is headed. So here's what I want to know from you guys. How confident are you in Ben Johnson right now? On a scale from 1 to 10, where's your confidence level? 1 being I have zero faith this is going to work, and 10 being we're winning the Super Bowl next year. Personally, I'm sitting at about a 7. I'm cautiously optimistic. I really do believe this can work, but I've also seen too many coaching hires blow up in our faces to go much higher than that just yet. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rumors are swirling out of Chicago that the Bears have made a significant splash in free agency, reportedly agreeing to terms with veteran pass rusher Za'Darius Smith. While no official announcement has been made, whispers suggest the deal is done, sending shockwaves through the NFC North and beyond. If the reports hold true, Smith's arrival would immediately elevate the Bears' defensive front, providing a much-needed boost to their pass rush. Known for his relentless motor and ability to disrupt opposing offenses, Smith has been a consistent force in the league, earning Pro Bowl honors multiple times throughout his career. His potential pairing with Montez Sweat could create a formidable tandem, presenting a nightmare scenario for NFC quarterbacks. This alleged signing signals a clear intent from the Bears' front office to bolster their defense and compete at a higher level. Smith's presence would not only bring elite talent, but also invaluable leadership to a relatively young defensive unit. Opposing offensive coordinators would undoubtedly have to reevaluate their game plans when facing Chicago, as the pressure on the quarterback would intensify considerably. The potential impact of this move can't be overstated, with Smith reportedly in the fold. The Bears could transform their defense into one of the most feared units in the NFC. This rumor, if confirmed, would undoubtedly ignite a new sense of optimism among the Bears faithful, who are eager to see their team return to perennial contention, the NFC North, prepare for a new era of terror. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.